Hey guys, welcome back to Beyond the Box Score, and I'm your host Hayat. Today, we're breaking down 5 NBA matchups on February 27th, and I'm walking through every angle the same way I do on camera, thinking out loud, working through injuries, rotations, props, spreads, trends, and how these games could realistically play out if the matchups unfold like the data and situations suggest. We've got Nuggets vs Thunder, Cleveland vs Pistons, Dallas vs Milwaukee, Dallas Mavericks vs Memphis Grizzlies, and Boston Celtics vs Brooklyn Nets. Analyzing 3 games, plus 2 player props you need to see, guys. James Harden for more than 11.5 rebounds plus assists, and Jalen Brunson for over 26.5 points. This is pure analysis and opinion, no guarantees, no promises, just me connecting the dots. Alright, let's dive in and see how these matchups could shake out. Nuggets vs Thunder, the lean here is Nuggets plus 5.5 over the Thunder. Let me walk through why. Man, this one is wild because when you look at the Oklahoma City injury report, it's just brutal, absolutely brutal, like, I don't even know where to start. SGA is questionable, day to day. And if I'm being real here, based on the research I've done, multiple reports, everything I've seen, I would say he does not play. Like, it's a bet I would make. He's probably not suiting up, but you know, he's still got that questionable tag, so there's a sliver of a chance, a tiny little path where he could play. And then we've got JD Dub, out indefinitely, at least until March 7th, so like, that's basically a guaranteed miss, and that completely shifts the dynamics of this game because that's your second best player in the rotation. Caruso is questionable. I think he plays, I really do. Last game he didn't play because of injury management. Not a real injury, so we'll probably see him. Isaiah Joe questionable, Hardenstein questionable, Mitchell questionable. I see all those guys playing, like I really do, so the way I handicap this game, I'm rolling with SGA out, JD Dub out, everybody else in. And then, you know, if you start looking at the history, I've been fading the Thunder. I know I keep doing it, it's kind of wild. I faded them against the Cavs, lost that one. Faded them against the Raptors, lost that one, faded them against the Pistons, got a good number in that one, line closed at 10.5, it covered, so at least that was a win on the number side. But still, the Thunder, man, they're tricky, but I keep seeing the same pattern. When their top guys are missing, especially SGA, the offense just can't click the way it needs to. And then you throw in the Nuggets, who, by the way, I'm telling you, tied for second best team in the West in my opinion. Maybe even competing with the Spurs for that second spot, and they have Nikola Jokic, the best player on planet Earth, like you literally can't ignore that. So now you've got the Nuggets, missing nothing, Thunder missing their best player, and the line is 5.5. I have to be on the Nuggets, I just have to. And then, if you want to layer on more story, this is a revenge spot too. Nuggets lost to the Thunder earlier in the season in Denver by 11. And the Thunder were also the team to knock the Nuggets out of the playoffs last season, so there's a little bit of a chip on the Nuggets' shoulder here, like, the revenge angle is there, it's real. So, one path I see here is the Nuggets taking full advantage of a depleted Thunder team, plus 5.5 is just juicy, it's like they're giving you points with Jokic on the floor, and that's almost impossible to pass up. And then if SGA does somehow play. Alright. Forget everything I just said, but everything else lines up for the Nuggets. So yeah, that's why the lean sticks at Nuggets plus 5.5. Alright, now first prop, let's dive into this James Harden play. Okay, the lean here is James Harden for more than 11.5 rebounds plus assists, and let me walk through why. So first off, Harden is listed as questionable tonight with a right thumb injury, and yeah, it's on his non-shooting hand, which honestly changes the risk profile a little, but from what we're hearing, he's expected to play and try to push through it. I mean, he didn't play their last game, but that was the second night of a back-to-back, so I think that's mostly why he sat, not because of the thumb necessarily, and from the reports from Shams, he's basically going to play as long as the pain is tolerable. So if this matchup plays out like Harden suits up and gets his normal minutes, we're talking a really big role here. Obviously, if he doesn't play, the prop just gets voided, but I'm leaning hard toward him being out there, ball in his hands, running the show. And with Donovan Mitchell ruled out for the Cavs tonight, that's another massive piece of the puzzle. Mitchell off the floor means Harden's shouldering a ton of the workload. Just looking at the numbers, he's only played 7 games with Cleveland so far this season, and in 5 of those 7, he's gone over this 11.5 raw mark. Yeah, he did go under against the Kings with 10 raw. He had 7 rebound chances, converted only 2, and had 11 potential assists, converting 8, but that's one game, and then against the Knicks, he only had 2 rebounds on 6 chances and got unlucky on assists, 14 potential assists, converted 4. So the volume's clearly there when he's on the floor. The matchup here really matters because the Pistons are giving up the fewest assists per game and the 4th fewest rebounds per game, and on top of that, they're giving up the fewest raw to Harden's position. So you could argue the line is a bit suppressed. But what connects for me is this isn't about the opponent, it's about Harden's role, and his role is massive tonight. He's going to have the ball in his hands constantly, and when you dig into his team stats, in 238 minutes with Cleveland, he's leading the team with a 32.6% assist percentage, and in the 97 minutes he's played without Donovan Mitchell, his assist percentage jumps to 43%, up 10% from when Mitchell's on the floor. So that alone screams more ball handling, more opportunity, more potential assists, more raw volume. If this matchup plays out like Dennis Schroeder sits or even if he's limited, Harden's role inflates even more, and we know Evan Mobley is back, so he's another target for assists, plus Jared Allen in the pick and roll can funnel more of these numbers Harden's way. And the raw line is set at 11.5, with the assist line at 7.5, and if you look at all the sportsbooks, they're basically favoring him to grab at least 4 rebounds. Some have him at 4, some at 4.5, some at 3.5, all heavily juiced to the over. Considering his minutes, in blowouts he's played 28 minutes, competitive games he's hitting 34 to 35, and this Detroit game has a spread of about 6 to 7 points. So we should project a competitive game where Harden's going to get the full workload. The sportsbooks are reflecting this, too. DraftKings has 124, FanDuel 128, Hard Rock actually has the line at 12.5, so there's a little extra value at 11.5 raw. And yeah, it's worth noting again, Mitchell out, Schroeder questionable, Harden's minutes are safe, big usage, full ball handling duties, Evan Mobley and Jared Allen in play. If this matchup plays out like I think it will, Harden's getting over 11.5 raw no problem. So yeah, that's why the lean sticks at James Harden for more than 11.5 rebounds plus assists. Next we have, the lean here is Jalen Brunson for over 26.5 points, and let me walk through why. So we're looking at a matchup against Milwaukee, and this one is kind of wild because on paper, it's almost as good as it could get for him. Milwaukee gives up the 2nd most points to point guards in the league. And that alone makes my ears perk up because you know if anyone's going to see a green light, it's going to be Brunson tonight. He's already played them twice earlier this season and in both of those games, he went well over 30 points, so the matchup is obviously really perfect for him. Now, the tricky part here is that this is one of those boomer bust plays where it can go either way. If it turns into a blowout, I mean, he's probably not seeing as many minutes in the 4th quarter. He's not taking as many shots, and you could be looking at something like 18 points, and that's just a reality you have to accept with a game that's not competitive. But if the game stays close, if the Bucks actually keep it tight and he gets to play his normal 35 minutes, there's a really good chance he goes off, really goes off, and we could easily see him hit 30 plus points, maybe even 35 plus, which is why this line at 26.5 points has such juice for the over. One path I see here is that the recent form hasn't been fantastic, he hasn't been lighting it up the last few games, but honestly, you've got to consider the context. He's been facing tough matchups against Cleveland and Houston, so it's not like his scoring ability isn't there, it's just the situation hasn't been favorable. What connects for me is that this matchup against Milwaukee is almost tailor-made for him to go off, and the prior 2 games versus them prove that he can absolutely put up well over 30 points if given the minutes and shots. Minutes here are huge. If this plays out like a close game, we're talking about roughly 35 minutes, and that gives him all the volume he could ever need. And again, if it's a blowout scenario, yeah, you could play it a little safer with the Goblin line at 19.5 points, and that's a smart hedge if you want to cover yourself against limited minutes in garbage time. But personally, I'm looking at the upside. I'm looking at the matchup. I'm thinking about his 2 prior games against Milwaukee where he absolutely dominated, scoring over 30 points, and it just feels like this is the kind of spot where he can explode. I mean, if this matchup plays out like a tight game, Jalen Brunson has all the tools, all the green lights, all the volume to absolutely crush 26.5 points and more. And yeah, it's high variance, it's a boomer bust type of play, I get that, but the upside is so juicy here that it's hard to pass up. Even considering his recent struggles, even thinking about tough matchups in the last few games, all the trends and the stats point toward him having a big game here. So yeah, that's why the lean sticks at Jalen Brunson for over 26.5 points. Quick pause, if you've got an even one lean you like so far, hit that like button. Seriously, it tells me these full NBA slates are worth putting together. And if you're riding along with Harden going over 11.5 raw or Brunson cracking 26.5 points. If you want to support channel, please hit like and subscribe. It takes a second, just one click, and it really means the world to the channel. Keep up with these props and picks, because the NBA slate today is wild and these numbers are moving fast. Alright, moving on to Dallas Mavericks versus Memphis Grizzlies, and the lean here is Mavericks to take care of Memphis. Let me walk through why. This Memphis team, man, 21-36 on the year, or maybe 25-3-1 depending on which record you look at, either way. They're just struggling, and their last game, they got absolutely blitzed by Golden State, 133-112, and that was Steph Curry less, Draymond Green less, so you're telling me even a depleted Warriors team put them away by 21. That's brutal. And then you start looking at Dallas, they're on the second half of a back-to-back after playing Sacramento Friday night, yeah. That's tough, but they just finished a 6-game road trip where they beat Brooklyn and Indiana. 1 games they should probably win, and they even covered against Minnesota, so they've got some momentum and they know how to handle the travel grind. Missing Cooper Flag is a bummer, sure, but this feels like one of those games where you can still exploit a team like Memphis because they are inconsistent, decimated by injuries. And they've got this Memphis hustle thing where they're calling up G League guys like G.G. Jackson. Sometimes they compete, sometimes they don't, it's completely unpredictable. And then you layer on the roster shakeups, they shipped out Jaren Jackson Jr., their pace in the Western Conference tournament race is just gone, like they're waving the white flag, they can't even keep up, they're far off the pace. So one path I see here is Dallas really taking advantage of this mess, pressing the pace, exploiting gaps, and I mean, honestly, I could probably pick 4 random guys from the comments section and they could probably cover a 15-point spread against Memphis. That's how little confidence I have in this team. So even though Dallas is on the second half of a back-to-back and missing Cooper Flag, the floor still tilts in their favor because Memphis is just not there right now, and this is the type of spot where you want to fade Memphis, like fully check out on them, take the Mavericks and just roll. So yeah, that's why the lean sticks at Mavericks over Memphis. Last game of this video is Celtics versus Nets. The lean here is Boston Celtics. Let me walk through why. Man, this matchup is just insane when you start unpacking everything, because on paper, the Boston Celtics are 38-20 on the year, 3-3-2-4-1 against the number this season, and they're coming off a 103-84 loss to Denver in the second half of a back-to-back. So yes, there's fatigue, yes, there's wear and tear. But let's be real here, Boston on their own court, even with a slight hangover from the Denver game, is still heads and shoulders better than this Brooklyn Nets team, who, by the way, are 15-42 on the year, 2-5-3-1-1 against the number, and their last game was the first half of a back-to-back at home against the San Antonio Spurs, so you've got 2 teams both dealing with back-to-back stress, but the difference is, Brooklyn just gets absolutely drilled when they take a step up in class on the road lately. I mean, look at the numbers, they lost 86 points to OKC in a 19-point loss, lost 84 points to Cleveland in an 18-point loss, got bludgeoned 118-98 by Orlando, 130-77 by the Pistons, and I think there was a 120-66 blowout loss to the Knicks as well. That's not a one-off, that's a pattern, that's a trend, and you just can't ignore that when you're laying a number as big as 17.5 against a team that, let's face it, is hemorrhaging points on the road against higher-level competition. And then you factor in the travel here, Brooklyn to Boston isn't a cross-country flight, but it's still travel, it's still a back-to-back, it's still putting stress on legs, on timing, on rotations, and that matters, especially when you're a team that's 15-42 and just not consistent. So, one path I see here is Boston coming in, dealing with their own back-to-back fatigue, sure, but still asserting dominance because, honestly, this Celtics roster is stronger, deeper, more disciplined, and you've seen them crush teams even when they shouldn't have, like beating the Bulls at home by 19 before the All-Star break. Or, absolutely dismantling a Giannis Milwaukee team by 28, so the firepower is there, the talent is there, and they know how to close out games against inferior competition. Now, the line is Boston laying 17.5 points, and yeah, I get it, that's a lot to ask in an NBA game, and you could easily see a scenario where Boston is just hanging around the number, maybe even cruising. Maybe even looking forward to their rivalry game against Philadelphia in a couple days, so there's a potential mental lapse there, right? But then you start thinking about the scoring dynamic, because Brooklyn, while they're terrible on the road, they're unpredictable, and sometimes they find a way to sneak in a backdoor, sometimes they crush you, sometimes they randomly score over expectations, so the safer, stronger play here, what connects for me, is the under, like. Literally, I'm leaning under total points because I don't trust Brooklyn to put up enough firepower to push this over, and Boston doesn't need to score 150 to win. 111-95 is the scenario I'm seeing, comfortably under the number, easy cover, clean win, but yeah, laying 17.5 in a game, that's risky, I'll admit that. That's why you consider the under as a hedge or even look at the Brooklyn Nets team total under if you don't want to mess with the full game total. Because all of these blowout trends, all of the back-to-back stress, all of the travel, all of Boston's history against inferior opponents, it all screams under, it all screams controlled scoring, it all screams that the Celtics can get the win without lighting the scoreboard on fire. So, you imagine if this matchup plays out like the patterns suggest, Boston asserts themselves early, controls tempo, Brooklyn sputters, scoring stays low, Celtics take it comfortably, yeah, that's exactly the play. And the risk of a 17.5 spread blowup is there, sure, but again, the total under captures that safer path, it captures the trend, it captures the game script that makes sense based on everything we've seen. So yeah, for me, the lean is Boston Celtics, but the stronger, smarter play is the under, maybe even a Brooklyn Nets team total under if you want to hedge, but leaning Celtics, yeah, that's the anchor. Yeah, that's why the lean sticks at Boston Celtics. Alright. That wraps it up for all 5 NBA matchups on February 27th, including our James Harden raw prop and Jalen Brunson points prop. As always, this was pure analysis and opinion, nothing guaranteed. Just me thinking through how these games could play out if the situations line up the way they look on paper. I want to hear from you, drop a Z in the comments and tell me which matchup you're most fired up for, or if you're seeing something different with Harden or Brunson. More breakdowns like this are coming soon, same raw energy, same deep dives, same messy thinking out loud. Stay locked in.